Number 10, Tony and Natasha. Yep, in the Ultimate Universe of Earth 1610, Iron Man and Black Widow are an item. But what's worse, Black Widow turns out to be working as a double agent and betrays the team in Ultimates 2. Turns out she was working with the Liberators. This all happens just as Tony and Natasha are preparing to tie the knot. Fortunately, Tony is able to apprehend Natasha, stop her, and turn her over to the authorities, but not before she manages to kill his longtime butler and friend Jarvis, and get all of Hawkeye's family killed and him captured. Tony finds himself distraught, and matters are made even worse after Black Widow's capture and later on her death, when a very intimate and personal video the two made together is leaked to the public. Yikes. Number 9, Actual Cannibal Hulk. Hulk in the Ultimate Universe was a much more gruesome version of himself. He was depicted as being a lot more violent, even killing people when he went into a rage. However, this is the Ultimate, so even this more violent and uncontrolled take on his character was not enough. Hulk wouldn't just lose control and kill people, he also had a habit of eating the people he killed as well. I mean, I know he's meant to be a monstrous figure even on Earth 616, but it feels like they took it a little too far here. Also, what's up with the Ultimate Universe and cannibalism? That's like a thing that just keeps coming up. Number 8, the one true enemy of the great Charles Xavier. Stairs! It was something that hadn't really been done when it came to defeating Professor X, throwing him down some stairs. But there was also probably a reason for this, because I mean, it's just not a thing that needs to happen in the comics, and yet nothing was considered off the table in Ultimates. This is the moment, by the way, that is featured in our thumbnail for this video, and you might be wondering, hold on, wait a minute, is that Wolverine throwing Charles down the stairs? And fear not, true believer, at least they didn't steep that low. That's actually Mr. Sinister, and yeah, he looks a little different in the Ultimate Universe. If you're like, but where's his cape and the things? And it looks different here.
In at 7, Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman of Earth 31 should honestly have known better, and Superman is already on this list, so I can't really use him again. On Earth 31, Lex Luthor and Brainiac have taken over, and in this reality, Superman and Wonder Woman have a daughter named Lara. She ends up having both of the powers of Superman and Wonder Woman, but then they send her away. This causes her to develop a really narcissistic outlook on life, where she sees all those less powerful than her as below her. They then also use her to spring a trap. Thanks. Being sent away from his home planet, Superman should have known better than to do that with his daughter, but Wonder Woman should as well. She isn't as naive as Superman, and she should have a clear idea that this will only hurt her daughter rather than help her. I know you were trying to protect him, but like, you were literally basically gods, so...
Number 6, Black Panther is Steve Rogers? There is a time that Black Panther is Steve Rogers in these comics. What went down is that basically Black Panther was recruited to the Ultimates but didn't really want to join the team. I mean, that's a whole other story that is pretty weird and problematic. He was kind of made to join the team against his will. On Nick Fury's orders, Black Panther, however, was also not allowed to leave or ever return to his home and see his family in Wakanda. Steve had been training Black Panther and he felt bad for T'Challa, so he decided to basically take Black Panther's place so that he could return home to visit his family. Temporarily, of course. At least, it seemed as though the sub-in was meant to be something temporary. It was implied in the comics that Black Panther would basically go visit his family for a while, and then he'd return to relieve Steve. That isn't what happened though, and instead Steve remained as Black Panther until eventually he just went back to being Captain America again, and Black Panther sort of seemingly disappeared off the team without any explanation. He does come back, I think, for one mission and then he quits, but yeah, it's also kind of weird that he quits. I guess things changed and he could quit at that point. Yeah, it's strange. Another one of the strangest moments in terms of this story is when Janet Van Dyne, the Wasp, seemingly recognizes that Steve is actually Black Panther because of the way he moves. Apparently no one else can move like Steve Rogers.
Number 5, The Thing. Fantastic Four. 2015, very important number. The Fantastic Four movies are on here more than once and for good reason. Okay, so we head over now to the reboot that didn't do well at all. It was directed by Josh Trank, released in 2015, and is currently sitting at a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes. Also, the other Fantastic Four movies before this reboot didn't get the best of reviews. I mean, sure, they were made long before the MCU was established, so there's not much to compare, but they were fun at the time. I mean, I think I remember having a good time in theaters. I don't remember having a bad time in theaters like I did with this Fantastic Four movie. But with Jon Watts attached to take a swing at the franchise yet again, we have a little bit of hope. He brought Spider-Man back to life and did such a good job. So as soon as he announced that he was doing Fantastic Four, I think we're good. I think we're finally past the uglies and now we're gonna get into the goods. But let's look now at one of the many things that made this movie bomb. And for me, it was character design. It didn't work. It didn't pull me in at all. I didn't care about any of these characters. I didn't care about the Fantastic Four. That's insane. Like the Thing, he's a super rock monster with a literal heart of gold. His first appearance is fun. He's a fun major character. Keyword here is fun. In 2011, The Thing ranked 18th in the top 100 comic book heroes, and we still haven't really seen any movie do him justice properly. For starters, at least the version that Michael Chiklis played had an actual actor under the suit. We had an actual human to relate to in some way or another.
Number 4, Magneto kills everyone. Normally, I wouldn't have a problem with Magneto killing people. After all, he's a major X-Men villain, and to have Magneto tell the story, most of the people that he kills, they deserve it. They themselves are usually murderers in some way. It's what makes him such a compelling villain, and at times an anti-hero. Right now, he's gone full hero in the comics, which means that he really holds people up to high standards in Krakoa when it comes to their law about not killing humans. After all, he knows what it's like to feel justified in disposing of human enemies, and even he is willing to agree that overall it's just a bad idea. So there's really no way of finding justification if that's your crime in Krakoa right now. In Ultimates, Magneto, however, goes from being Professor X's friend and partner in mutant team building and safe space creating to thinking that mutants are basically better than humans and believing that humans should either serve mutants or completely be exterminated. Does believing that you belong to a superior race sound like anything else to you? Magneto kills billions of people in the pursuit of this belief, which, considering his history as a victim and survivor of the camps in World War II, is pretty shocking and feels out of character. And if you're wondering, well, is that still a thing in Ultimates? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's still established in Ultimates, so yeah.
And at 3, Spider-Woman. Crime fighting while having kids is one thing. You can come home and then you can make them dinner, no matter the irony in that. But fighting crime while actually pregnant is an entirely different story. Sasha talked about this a while ago and then continued to complain about it in the office. Drew is a great, loving, and caring mother. She actually gave up being a superhero to take care of her son. But she was still fighting crime while pregnant. She wasn't worse at crime fighting, but that is not a smart move in the slightest. If we need to rush people to the hospital when they're pregnant and they fall down the stairs or have something hit their stomach, why the living hell would it be a good idea to go out and get shot at while pregnant? Sure, she's a superhero, but that child still hasn't fully developed. I'm sure that even if it's going to have superpowers, it wouldn't develop those right off the bat. Like, that would have to be the last stage of development. And by no means would those powers be powerful enough to prevent death in the womb. This was an insanely stupid decision no matter who you are.
Number 2, Ultimates 3. Many of these worst moments that have been laid out before you today come to us from Ultimates 3, which is where the wheels really began to fall off the Ultimates train. I mean, Ultimates 2 also had its problems, but I don't know if there were quite as many as Ultimates 3. Ultimates would later be relaunched by Jonathan Hickman and Asad Ribish in hope to save it, but the damage had already been done. The line was doomed to die and would die during the incursions, with the worlds colliding and being rolled into one giant ball of fun that we'd come to know as Doom's Battle World. Of course, then later it'd be brought back, so nah. Number 1, Ultimatum. What could possibly be worse than a brother and sister in a romantic relationship and Ultimates 3, where many problematic stories either got worse or got started? How about the thing that simply straight up killed the Ultimate Universe, or at least felt like it tried to? Ultimatum. Ultimatum was the crossover event that caused mass devastation to the universe and the world, wiping out many of the characters that we'd come to know and love, or at the very least tolerate. Jeff Loeb was basically given the green light by Marvel to kill off all characters who were too similar to their Earth 616 counterparts to really shake up the Ultimate Universe. What ended up happening as a result was many people, heroes, and villains dying due to their heads being blown up or torn off, having an overly gruesome and violent end. Then there were deaths that were never even shown of major characters who died in the Ultimate Wave. And finally, there were also tons of characters whose corpses were eaten after or during their death, or who ended up tortured to death. It was just an overly violent mess of an event with death after death, till you became just basically numb to what was going on. Ultimatum is also the event where Magneto decided to basically go nuts and kill billions of people. He would snap Professor X's neck and then would later have his own head blown off by Cyclops' optic blasts. Like I said, just so many heads being blown off. It makes my head want to explode. Boom.
Kicking off the list at number 10, Bullseye. Daredevil. Wow, he's the coolest guy I've ever seen at a bar, hands down. So Bullseye was introduced to readers back in Daredevil 131. Now, I know he doesn't look the coolest here either, but that's who the character is, okay? Make your movie universe work for that character or just don't use the character yet. That's it. Like, you can't have Daredevil looking like this, and then when it comes to Bullseye, you have him looking like this. You can't have cool guy Colin Farrell and also leather Daredevil. It's just like, pick a lane. It looks like he's the villain of a 90s TV show, honestly. He doesn't look like the iconic evil assassin at all in this entire movie. Plus, Colin Farrell's performance is just... Now, the Batman universe did Ben Affleck a little bit better, and now we can also look forward to Colin Farrell being in the Penguin in the new Batman, so it's good. It's like you start with Marvel, move to DC, or you start to DC, and then you move to Marvel. Proper transitions. And before we head over to number 9, if you guys could go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, because it really means a lot for us at the channel, and it also helps us out as well too. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for supporting. Now back to this list. Number 9, Silver Samurai, the Wolverine. Alrighty, we got a cinematic masterpiece coming from Fox, because they just pump out the best superhero movies ever. The Silver Samurai in this movie has no mutant abilities. It's rather just an advanced tech suit. It was made up of adamantium from the orders of Ikiro Yoshida, and it was meant to prolong his life until he got Logan's healing factor. And it also looks like a Decepticon. Although it's based off of the original armor of the Silver Samurai, it just didn't work out. It was too much CGI, took you out of the movie, felt like you were watching Michael Bay's Ninja Turtles. It was just a mess. But while this Wolverine movie may be at the bottom of the list for many, I don't feel too bad for adding it in here because eventually we got around to James Mangold's Logan, which was a perfect send-off for the character. So far, there's only a couple of Fox characters that have been redeemed. Wolverine and some other mutant that I'm going to mention definitely later on in this list. Number 8, Vision. Avengers Age of Ultron. So with WandaVision episodes dropping weekly, we're getting to see Marvel have another crack at suiting up their power couple. We've seen a sneak peek now for their original comic book look that's going to come up in a future episode. Okay, cool, that's going to be amazing. So now it's only fair to revisit Marvel's first attempt at Vision. Age of Ultron was released in 2015 and comic book fans were delighted to see the creation of Vision in this movie. But unfortunately, it looked like another CGI android and not anything close to what made him pop and unique in the comics. So while some characters like Hawkeye have to look more military based because that's part of this arc for this universe that they're building all these stories in, he's more of a military character. It would make sense that he doesn't jump right into the purple onesie off the bat. But Vision could have looked anyway. He didn't have to be as grounded and realistic as Hawkeye did in the story. They could have had way more fun with him, which is something WandaVision is finally doing now. And even the solo Hawkeye show that's coming to Disney Plus is kind of leaning into more fun costume-wise. So we can look forward to seeing that in the future. See, things get better for Marvel. They start off a little bit choppy and then they're like, oh, let's throw in some purple. Let's throw in some green.
Number 7, Liberators. Okay, so don't get me wrong. I like the idea of the Liberators. It was more the way that this all went down with them in the end and the way that these international heroes, but villains to the Ultimates, were portrayed. The Liberators were a team of superpowered folks from around the globe who had come together to defeat the Ultimates so as to even the playing field on a global level for the rest of the world. Basically, these characters thought that the USA was becoming too powerful and was messing things up for other countries with their superhero team. This could have been an interesting story, actually, in terms of like global international politics, but instead it just became about how every other country was inferior to the US, with their heroes, the Ultimates, winning the day simply because they were kind of deemed superior. And I'm pretty sure there's a line in there that communicates almost verbatim that sentiment.
Number 6, Apocalypse. X-Men Apocalypse. He made his first full comic book appearance in X-Factor issue 5. He's the big brooding villain of the Marvel Universe, or one of them at least. And after the success of X-Men Days of Future Past, this movie was hyped up. The first mutant, near omnipotent superpowers, this guy is the big bad we've been waiting for in the X-Men universe. And the results were boring dialogue. The costume ended up looking like the sticky dude from Power Rangers movie. Ivan Ooze. Yeah, Ivan Ooze was the villain. Hi, can I get 4 tickets to X-Men Ivan Ooze? Thanks, debit. To be honest, I'd rather just watch Oscar Isaac act as a person, because it's usually pretty good. Ex Machina was an amazing performance. This movie just felt like a superhero movie with a budget every time I looked at him. And also, the guy's barely in the movie. Like, for the main villain, for Apocalypse in a live-action X-Men film, we got to see him for less than 20 minutes. in total.
Halfway through number 5, Batman. Look, I know we all love Batman, and while Batman may not be entirely responsible for how his son Damian Wayne turned out, he is responsible for the 3 Robins who came before him. His crime-fighting antics and his insistence on bringing his basically adoptive sons on these crime-fighting missions got Jason Todd killed in Batman number 427 when Joker beat Jason with a crowbar and then dropped a building on him. Then Damian bit the dust in Batman Incorporated number 8, but he did end up bringing that one back 1 year later by going to hell and then getting Damian's body from Darkseid, so at least he tried there. Tim Drake and Dick Grayson also got killed thanks to being brought into the superhero life. Even if the death wasn't the direct result of Batman, he brought them into this life, or at least kept them in this life, so it's still indirectly his fault.
Number 4, Doctor Doom, Fantastic Four 2015. And now we got number 4, same movie. Let's do it. While we're at it, I gotta bring up Doctor Doom from the same movie. Perhaps even worse than how bad The Thing looked, we have our main villain. Also, one of the biggest Marvel villains ever, of all time. Victor Von Doom was played by Toby Kebbell, who I'm a big fan of. His motion capture work for the Planet of the Apes movies were amazing. He's a fantastic actor. So dare I say, I was looking forward to seeing this movie in theaters. In the early 2000s franchise, we almost got him. We almost got Doctor Doom. We kind of got a comic book look and feel. A little bit. But even so, this was a watered down version of the character as a whole. Like, he's not a king yet. And the reboot back in 2015, when the first look of Doctor Doom was leaked, we couldn't even believe it. We thought it was fake. We were confused and kind of worried, but then, you know, maybe a little CGI will kind of clean him up a bit, maybe some post-production. Maybe we'll have a good Doctor Doom, right? Right? We'll get him next time, boys.
Number 3, Wanda and Pietro. Initially, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver had a similar relationship to their 616 counterparts, with Pietro being established as just an overprotective brother. Ultimates then took this a step further, with it being kind of a joke that they were maybe like a little too close, with them even being presented as being overly flirty with one another. But eventually, this was then taken to the next level. A level we probably never should have gone to, where the brother and sister duo were in a full-blown romantic and intimate relationship with one another, and Wolverine even caught them being intimate. And this was something that many fans felt was taking their relationship way too far. Pietro even is considered a rival when it comes to anyone else competing for Wanda's affections. I love how Earth 1610 was about trying completely different things with characters, and yet the close siblings were simply just like brought too close together. I mean, they could have done something really different with these two and made them like two estranged siblings or people that were like unrelated to each other. That's something that would really be breaking new ground. Like, where's my story where they were like split up at birth and so they like never knew about the other one and then they find their long lost twin? That could be a cool story.
Number 2, Galactus. Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer. Okay, everybody heads up. We have a giant menacing space cloud coming in, and it's gonna kill all of us, so hit the deck. Galactus made his first comic book appearance in Fantastic Four issue 48 back in the 60s. He's referred to in this issue as the ultimate danger, and his looks match the description. He's the sole survivor of the 6th incarnation of the multiverse, and he was also the bad guy slash bad cloud slash thing that was coming in Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer. We're used to seeing this guy as a giant powerful cosmic being, but his big reveal in this movie was not there at all. All we got was a little sneak peek at his silhouette. But why did this happen? Why did they choose to do a giant Nimbus cloud instead of a villain? Let me explain. So 20th Century Fox, their rationale for having the character as a cloud was apparently to keep him discreet, because they had original plans for him, and that was in a Silver Surfer spin-off. So they wanted that to be a tease and then furthermore explore his true look and story in the movie. So they wanted to kind of tease him first and then bring him in to the actual Silver Surfer spin-off, which would have been great, but we never got that. And finally, number 1, Deadpool. X-Men Origins Wolverine. Okay, possibly the worst cinematic debut of Wade Wilson. And we got 2 looks in that movie that nobody wanted. 2 for the price of 1. We got this one. And we also got this one.
Wait, is that you? Stryker finally figured out how to shut you up.
Both were not received well. Now we're finally back on track with Wade Wilson. Just like Logan, we got that R-rated comic book character we should have always gotten. The merc with the mouth, and your plan was to sew his mouth shut. Okay, great plan. So he went from holding katanas wearing a red and black outfit to having blades in his arm while being naked. And what didn't help was the fight scene that followed this horrible reintroduction. Thank God they're trying again with these characters, but I mean, how many tickets do we have to buy to see your failed attempts?
And at 10, Superman. In the comics from DC, Superman has been shown to be an amazing dad, especially in the Super Son series, which started in 1973 and then had a new monthly comic series in 2017 starring Jonathan Kent and Damian Wayne. But the Superman from Young Justice Season 1 is an absolutely trash father. Don't get me wrong, finding out Superboy was a clone of him doesn't really make him his father, but in a way children are like little clones of their parents, so it should constitute a father-son-like relationship. But it doesn't. Superman was a douche to Superboy, not really mentoring him and just ignoring his son adjacent for practically no reason. And for someone who crash landed as a baby and had no family, no home, and was in a whole new world, you'd think he'd be more considerate of his clone who has no home, no parents, and is in a whole new world. In Season 2 they have a relationship, yes, but it's more of a brotherly one, and Superboy needs a father figure to look up to, even if he's basically full grown already. And at 9, Oliver Queen. It breaks my heart to put Oliver on this list, but honestly, things could have gone better for the offspring of the Green Arrow, especially in the Arrowverse. Spoiler alerts for seasons 4 to 6 of Arrow, by the way. If you want to skip this or haven't seen them, do so now. 3, 2, 1, okay. So in season 4 of Arrow we learn about William, Oliver's child with Samantha that he didn't know about, and that's not his fault, but then him learning about him then causes others to learn the truth and then puts this kid in a whole lot more danger than he was before Oliver came into his life. He was kidnapped by Damien Dark in season 4, Prometheus in season 5, and then in season 8 by someone who Oliver put away in one of the earlier seasons. And not to mention the whole Star City Slayer incident and everyone who came after them when they were, when Oliver revealed his identity to the world. And then Ricardo Diaz. Man, this kid's been through a lot. But William turned out okay. Mia, on the other hand, is the one who's mad at Oliver and shows it in season 8. She hates Oliver for sacrificing his life instead of staying with her and her mom, and I can understand why. He traded his life for Barry and Kara, even though Barry wasn't gonna die because the newspaper said he'd vanish in crisis, but no one cares about continuity. But I mean, he did redeem himself after spending time with her and then rebooting the universe to make her life better. She's a socialite now and she's rich. Why didn't he do that for me? But things didn't start off great for either child, so yeah, sorry Oliver. And at 8, Goku. Goku may not be what we typically picture when we think of a superhero, but he has superpowers and he is a hero, so it counts. And while his power level may be over 9,000, his parent level certainly isn't. Goku is a warrior and thus respects fighting and the ability to do such. And he raised Gohan and Goten to share this mindset, and we can see that. And that's only for the time he was with them. For most of their lives, Goku was dead, and he only showed up to train Gohan to fight a maniacal android and then stopped fighting alongside him to see if Gohan was strong enough. And then he hardly spent any time with Goten after he was no longer dead. Like, what the hell, man? You were dead. You get to see your children. You spend time with them. Oliver even did that.
Number 7, the RHINO. The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Okay, the Spider-Man almost trilogy with Andrew Garfield. Here we go. So we got to see the introduction to RHINO, played by Paul Giamatti, which is a wild sentence to say out loud. So the popular villain made his debut in Amazing Spider-Man issue 41 back in 1966, and fans were pumped to see this movie possibly lead us to a Sinister Six movie, and it was coming. So this strange gentleman throughout the movie who was assembling this sinister crew asked Alexei to pilot this exosuit. Now at the beginning of this movie, we had seen him trying to hijack an Oscorp van containing vials of plutonium. Now of course this was Spidey's cool first fight scene of the movie, so he took him down with ease, throwing in left hooks and quips, eventually leaving him literally standing there with his pants down. And then at the end of this film, because he's only in the opening scene and the ending scene forever, that's all the RHINO we have now until they redo him again, but they're not gonna bring him back for sure. This is a hard character to do, and it didn't really work out in this movie in any way. Yeah, like imagine if you joined Jamie Foxx's Electro coming into the MCU in the next Spider-Man movie. Like if he appeared there, he'd get his ass kicked. Like Mark 1 could take this guy. Now I understand you need to make it again more realistic for a live action movie, but this just wasn't it.
And at 6, Reed Richards. The pregnancy of Sue Storm was difficult to say the least, and so are the ones that followed. But after the birth of his son Franklin, things got real dicey, with Franklin being the most powerful creature or mutant or being to grace the Marvel Universe. His full powers got unleashed, but this causes the world to be in severe danger, and instead of something like, sending the mutant child to Professor Xavier or something, Reed puts his child in a coma. I know that he had to do this to save the world, but come on, there had to have been something else he could have done. This made Sue leave him, which I can see as understandable, but also not because he had to do it. But I mean, I don't think I know of any parent who would willingly put their child in a coma. I think they would try everything else before putting their kid in a coma if they ended up having to put their kid in a coma. But Reed was just like, bang!
Number 5. Blob eats the Wasp. During the events of Ultimatum, a lot of awful things went down. One of those things was the death of the Wasp, Janet Van Dyne. She was for a time the leader of the Ultimates and actually proved to be a quite capable, resourceful, and powerful member of the team, but none of that could save her from the Ultimate Wave. Janet was one of the heroes to be killed during the Ultimate Wave, and her body was found by Hawkeye and Giant Man. The worst part wasn't even that she died, but instead was the aftermath of that. Hawkeye and Giant Man found the Wasp's corpse, which was being violently torn apart and eaten by the Brotherhood member, the Blob. Ew. Why? Why so much cannibalism though?
In at 4, Wolverine. Wolverine did well with X-23, no question, even sacrificing his life for her. But for someone with over 10 kids from various groupings, and all the clones and clones of clones, his track record isn't very good. At least he learned from his mistakes. Especially with Dakin and the Mongrels. The Mongrels being a team of kids that he didn't know he had that were tasked with killing Wolverine, who he did tear to pieces. The Red Right Hand's enforcers were the Mongrels. Gunhawk, Fire Knives, Shadowstalker, Cannonfoot, and Sawfist were all of Wolverine's children, which he ended up killing. He didn't know, but come on, that's still not gonna get him Dad of the Year awards. And he did drown Dakin in order to save lives, but I don't know anyone who would kill their kid even if it meant saving people. I mean, sure, they're superheroes, but if this was real life, they wouldn't be doing it. Oh, and after the whole Mongrels incident, Red Right Hand offed himself to prevent Wolverine from getting revenge. Yikes.
Number 3, Venom, Spider-Man 3. The Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies have a special place in my soul, in my heart. They're a big part of my childhood. I remember seeing Spider-Man 2 in theaters, and I remember having the best time. It rocked my world. And then the third one came out. So we got to see Venom come to life in the form of Topher Grace. This movie also just had a villain problem to begin with, not necessarily just Venom. We got a new Goblin, Harry Osborn, Flint Marko as the Sandman, and Eddie Brock as Venom. On paper, this sounds like a great Spider-Man sequel. Sounds like a lot of fun, but it wasn't. Why is that? Well, part of the problem was that the studio was pushing director Sam Raimi to include Venom in the plot, when even he didn't want to. He wanted to complete Harry's arc, boom, which he did, and he wanted to have a new wild villain that makes a blockbuster pop like Sandman, and then he originally wanted to have the Vulture in there as well as a third villain. He said Venom's lack of humanity wouldn't work with the existing story and universe. Yeah, absolutely. Venom looks bad in this movie. He just looks like Topher Grace in a suit with messed up teeth. It doesn't feel remotely close to being a powerful symbiote, and also because Raimi had to throw Venom in the plot, we also had to see a new look for Spider-Man, which was the black suit, which was cool. The black suit's a nice little nod to the old comics. It's cool, it makes him stronger. He likes the suit, it feels good on him. Awesome, we love to see it. But that meant we also got to see a new Peter Parker as well, which we didn't want to see. So including Venom was a fail for a good amount of reasons in this movie, not just the look.
I like being bad. It makes me happy.
In at 2, Mystique. Mystique has had several children, so much so that we were actually able to make a whole list of them. If you want to see the top 10 children of Mystique video, check it out, should be up in the top right corner, hopefully, I don't know. But let's go over some of the highlights of Mystique's wonderful parenting. Graydon Creed, the child of Mystique and Sabretooth, who she gives up for adoption shortly after his birth. Graydon then ends up hating all mutants because of this. Then we have Nightcrawler, the son of Mystique and Azazel, who she saves from being killed by a mob who considered him a demon, and then abandons him, even though he would still be in danger. On Earth 797, Mystique's daughter was dead. In Exiles, we see this grave after this version of Mystique comes to see Destiny's grave. How about Earth 13729's Charles Xavier II, who was born while Mystique was pretending to be Moira McTaggart? Or that same Earth's Ray's Darkholme, the son of Mystique and Wolverine, who wanted to kill both his parents. Mystique doesn't have a great track record, and this is consistent over multiple Earths and or dimensions or realities, whatever you want to call it. Finally, in at number 1, the Comedian. The Comedian is a hero hailing from the Watchmen universe, and oh boy is this guy a piece of work. I don't consider him to be a hero just because of this story. Knowing this makes me hate the character, as this is one of the most hated things to me personally. First of all, this child was the result of the comedian forcing his then wife to have intimate relations. He's also an absentee father, since the mother refuses to let him see their kid, which is understandable given how she was conceived. But even when he does manage to see her, be it at an event or something, he ends up hitting on her. He may not know that it's her, but that's still messed up. And especially the whole she was conceived because of assault. Let's say that to get around the censors.